The NFL didn't ease into 26. It limped into it, bruised, exposed, and full of unresolved questions that every fan pretended not to notice while celebrating wins or blaming refs. Beneath the box scores and playoff banners, every single franchise is carrying a problem big enough to derail its future. Some are obvious, others are quietly terrifying. And as the new year begins, one thing is clear: no team is as stable as it wants you to believe. Let's start in Arizona, where the Kyler Murray era now feels more like a stalled experiment than a long-term plan. Once marketed as the future of the franchise, Murray's relationship with the Cardinals has grown cold, awkward, and transactional. The flashes of brilliance are still there, but the consistency never followed, and neither did the trust. The front office knows the contract makes him nearly unmovable, which only deepens the tension. Arizona isn't rebuilding around Kyler anymore. They're trapped with him, and that's far. Worse. In Atlanta, the problem is almost comical if it weren't so costly. The Falcons somehow managed to collect two quarterbacks who look like potential franchise players, yet neither has seized control of the job. Michael Penix Jr. shows talent but can't stay healthy long enough to build momentum. Kirk Cousins has the resume, the paycheck, and the experience, yet every opportunity to lock down the role slipped through his fingers. The result is a locker room stuck in limbo, waiting for clarity that never comes. Baltimore's concerns are more sobering. Lamar Jackson remains one of the most electrifying players in football, but as 2026 begins, his health overshadows everything else. The back injury that cut short his season wasn't an isolated scare. It was another reminder of how thin the margin is when your entire offense depends on one body holding up. The Ravens aren't questioning Lamar's talent. They're questioning how long they can keep gambling their future on his availability. In Buffalo, Josh Allen is still playing like a superhero, but even superheroes need help. The Bills' biggest issue isn't effort or coaching. It's the absence of a true number one wide receiver. Defenses no longer fear the deep ball, compressing the field and daring Buffalo to beat them underneath. Allen keeps doing it through sheer force of will, but the longer this continues, the more inevitable the ceiling becomes. Carolina's season has been one of the strangest stories in recent memory. On one hand, they've shocked the league with resilience, stealing wins nobody expected and flirting with legitimacy. On the other, they look completely unrecognizable from week to week. One version of the Panthers plays fearless, fast, and disciplined football. The other collapses under minimal pressure. That split personality hasn't gone away, and in 2026, it's still the biggest threat to their future. Chicago finally broke through and reached the playoffs, but the celebration didn't erase their most dangerous habit: self-sabotage. Penalties, blown assignments, and mental mistakes continue to haunt them at the worst possible moments. The Bears aren't losing because they lack talent. They're losing because they beat themselves, and discipline is the hardest thing to fix once bad habits are ingrained. Cincinnati's situation is far more explosive. Joe Burrow's health issues were concerning enough, but the real panic began with his words. Subtle comments about the future, open-ended answers that raised eyebrows. The franchise quarterback never outright demanded a change, but he didn't shut the door either. As 2026 begins, the Bengals face a terrifying possibility. Their star might already be emotionally halfway out the door. Cleveland, meanwhile, feels stuck in a loop that never ends. Another rebuild, another injured quarterback, another offensive line that can't stay intact. 16 losing seasons in 18 years isn't bad. Luck, it's institutional failure. Every offseason promises change, and every season delivers the same result. The Browns' biggest problem isn't talent or coaching, it's credibility. Dallas might be the most frustrating team in football. The offense scores at will, lighting up scoreboards and fantasy leagues alike. But the defense, historically bad. Games turn into track meets, and no lead feels safe. All that firepower means nothing when opponents can march down the field untouched. The Cowboys aren't wasting a season, they're wasting a championship-caliber offense. Denver made the playoffs, yet nobody in the building feels comfortable. The offense oscillates between impressive and alarming, often within the same game. Bo Nix shows promise, but footwork and accuracy issues refuse to disappear. The Broncos aren't sure if they've found their guy or just another placeholder, and that uncertainty clouds everything moving forward. Detroit's fall has been swift and painful. Once crowned Super Bowl favorites, they now enter 26 unsure if their window is already closing. Defensive breakdowns, lack of pressure, and mounting injuries have exposed cracks that optimism once hid. The confidence is still there, but the margin for error is gone. Green Bay's season unraveled in a matter of days. Concussions, torn ACLs, and season-ending injuries piled up faster than answers. Jordan Love's availability remains uncertain, and the depth behind him inspires little confidence. What looked like stability turned into chaos almost overnight. Houston keeps winning, but nobody's convinced. The offensive line struggles to protect consistently, and the scoring output doesn't match the record. The Texans are surviving rather than dominating. And in the NFL, that difference eventually catches up. Indianapolis might have the most surreal quarterback situation in football. Freak injuries derailed everything. Daniel Jones's body betrayed him. Anthony Richardson's accident stunned the league. And now a 44-year-old Phillip Rivers is back under center. It's equal parts admirable and terrifying. And nobody believes this ends well. Jacksonville surged back into contention, but the run game that once defined them is fading at the worst possible time. Without balance, the offense becomes predictable, and playoff defenses feast on predictability. Kansas City faces a reality few thought possible. Patrick Mahomes' ACL injury didn't just end a season, it ended an era of inevitability. Missing the playoffs for the first time in a decade forced uncomfortable conversations about aging stars, retirement rumors, and whether the dynasty is already over. Las Vegas remains a cautionary tale. Ownership chaos, roster dysfunction, and an identity crisis plague the franchise. Every rebuild starts before the last one finishes, and the Raiders continue to live at the bottom by design or incompetence. The Chargers finally broke through, but their offensive line collapsed in the process. With key tackles gone for the year, Justin Herbert spends every snap under siege. Playoff hopes exist, but protection issues loom like a ticking clock. The Rams' reliance on pressure exposes them when it disappears. Special teams' mistakes compound the issue, turning close games into disasters. When Plan A fails, there is no Plan B. Miami's quarterback saga turned brutal. Tua Tagovailoa's demotion and looming release left behind historic dead cap consequences. The Dolphins are paying for past decisions in the harshest way possible. Minnesota's gamble on J.J. McCarthy has gone sideways. Historic inefficiency, poor decisions, and stalled development raise questions no one wanted to ask this soon. New England wins games, but Drake May absorbs hit after hit. The results look good now, but the long-term cost feels inevitable. New Orleans remains buried under the weight of its own cap mismanagement. No coach can scheme around math forever. The Giants found hope in Jackson Dart, but his refusal to protect himself threatens to shorten that hope dramatically. The Jets are simply broken. Trades, failed experiments, and empty Sundays define them. Draft picks are all they have left. Philadelphia won the division, yet the offense looks nothing like its dominant past. Familiar faces, unfamiliar results. Pittsburgh holds its breath with every TJ Watt update. His health dictates their ceiling. San Francisco's injury list reads like a Pro Bowl roster. Depth is tested, patience is thin, and the future feels uncertain. Seattle wins despite an offensive line that can't impose its will. Eventually, that flaw shows itself. Tampa Bay watched Baker Mayfield's magic evaporate. Confidence vanished, decisions worsened, and losses piled up. Tennessee drafted Cam Ward to save the franchise, then failed to protect him. Development without protection is a myth. Washington shut down Jaden Daniels early, but the bigger worry is how far. He regressed before it happened. As 2026 begins, the NFL isn't defined by perfection. It's defined by problems, and which teams can solve them before time runs out.